Let's talk about one of the biggest problems in the art world for artists. One of the biggest problems is artists getting away in themselves, getting in your own way, so to speak. And I want to flesh that out a little bit and talk about how to get around that and what that even means. In one sense, artists are told that they're entrepreneurs and that they should conduct the sales of their artwork and themselves in the world the same way entrepreneurs do. Because entrepreneurs want success, they want financial success, and artists want the same thing. I feel that that's actually not an accurate kind of analogy because artists are not entrepreneurs. While they could use some entrepreneurial techniques, there are some major differences between artists and entrepreneurs. For example, if you're an entrepreneur and you're offering a product or a service and you're trying to reach your market, you do what you can to reach the market. You use whatever marketing techniques you feel are sufficient for you or that you'll do, and you try as hard as you can. Sometimes entrepreneurs find that's not what the market wanted. Their product wasn't needed that way, so they change the product. Or entrepreneurs find that's actually not a service or product that people want, so they try to sell another service or product. Because what entrepreneurs want to do is be in business, any business that makes money. Now, artists, of course, are working very differently. Artists are making something for unknown reasons. They're making art that has something to do with themselves. Call it a soul, call it your heart, call it a message for the world. Artists have something to share that's a powerful message in some ways. Even if it's a decorative painting, it's about beauty. Or if it's a message about something political or social or personal, it's something specific that the artist is trying to give. So in the case of an artist trying to bring their work to market and use entrepreneurial techniques, if they run into the fact that they're seeing that no one's interested in their work and they're not making sales, one choice for the artist isn't to just make different art or to try something else, because that doesn't really work, right? There's no one art that sells. It's about sincerity. It's about doing what's most important to you. It's about doing something that's valuable to you. So there's a major difference there. And the other difference is entrepreneurs are taught to handle rejection well, right? If something isn't working and your clients aren't happy, adjust your service, change your business model, change your business. Artists, on the other hand, if your work isn't being sold or people aren't interested in it, it's not just that you can change it. It has another effect. It hurts. It's painful. It's hard to go on. It makes you wonder what you're doing. It sows self-doubt. It taps into your deepest fears, which is, am I good enough? Am I enough? Can I do this? Is it valuable? And that's not all the questions an artist wants to be asking themselves, right? That's debilitating. You just want to make art. You want to make what a voice inside you is telling you to make. That's all. That's all you want to do. And yes, after that, you want to get it out into the world, but you don't want to be hurt in the process, and you don't want to endure rejection, and you don't want to keep making different art to satisfy different markets constantly, because now you're no longer in touch with what it is that you love about art, which is most likely an expression of some kind, right? Some kind of expression. So I want to talk about this because how do you get over this? How do artists become more confident? How do artists allow themselves to get their work out into the world and not be hurt or taken down when they don't get a grant or even a residency or something doesn't sell at a show? Well, there's a number of ways that I'd like to propose today, but I just wanted to start off by saying it's not by using all the techniques that an entrepreneur uses, because you're very different from an entrepreneur. In a sense, you wear your heart on your sleeve, and that's not what an entrepreneur does. An entrepreneur is selling products, they're a business person, and so it's quite a different model altogether. So as an artist, there's a number of things you can do, of course, to bring your work out into the world. You can, reach out to curators, you can apply for shows, and you can apply for grants, which I've talked about in other videos in this series. But what do you do when you feel that you're getting in your own way? And what does that mean? Getting in your own way is when you're afraid to put yourself out there because of the rejection that you might get. Now, again, an entrepreneur would see that in a different way. They just go for it. They'll change their mind. They don't really care. But as an artist, again, this is personal. There's no way to make it impersonal. This is personal. So what do you do when you get rejection? And what most people do when they get rejection, I've applied to 2 or 3 grants. I've applied to 2 or 3 residencies. I called 4 galleries. They're not interested in my work. It's easy to stop at that point. It's easy to say, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. This is too painful, and obviously maybe the world doesn't like my art. I don't know what the problem is, but I just want to make art. And you go back into your studio and you make art. And that's fine. One way out of this is to say, I don't want to bring my work to the market. I'm not interested in sales. I'm going to give all my work away. Right? That's one way. But if you still want to apply for grants, if you still want to apply for residencies, if you still want to get your work out into the world, you're going to have to find a way around those fears, right? And again, the fear is after multiple rejections, after feeling humiliated, how do I keep doing this? How do I get my work out into the world? So I would suggest a number of things. There is the kind of old saying of just, pick yourself up and get out there. And that may be easier said than done. We all have different things going on in our lives, different pressures, both domestically and, and in terms of work. So other pressures are on us, right? Financial pressures and other things, Why are we spending all this time making art, right? So one thing I would suggest is to create a support group, right? You need people. The saying of it takes a village has never been more true. We need other people to grow. The reason even Zoom Talk works for education now is because we need to know that we're with other people who are having the same struggles we are. So the beginning to answer this problem of how to get work out into the world when you're getting in your own way because you're so upset at rejections or humiliations that you don't want to. You just say no. One way is to find other people who are also feeling similar ways and to work with them. So how do you start a group? Well, you could do it in a number of ways. You can use, if you have local apps like, Neighborhood or Neighbor or all these other things, you can ask if there's any artists out there who want to start a support group of some kind. And support groups are really cool, because it'll give you support, but it also requires you giving other people support. And that's easier to do often than accept support, right? So let's say you put together a small support group. You find that there's 5 artists in your area, or they don't have to be in your area, right, if you're using Zoom. But you put the word out there on social media, on your Facebook page, that you're putting together an artist support group. Is anybody interested? And then you have regular meetings, let's say once a month on Zoom. And in those meetings, everybody talks about their art and what their struggles are and what they're trying to do. And usually there is something like, I know I should apply for this grant, or I know I should have called that gallery back that was interested, but I didn't. And then other members in the group will find it easy to say, call them up. If you call them up, I'll do what I'm doing. And that creates a kind of a buddy system, right? Which has been going on for ages. This idea of let's support each other by when you're doing what you want to do, then I'll do what I want to do. We'll both check in with each other. So a support group like that helps people to check in with one another. So this is one method, right? And if you do it every month, you can, and you're the moderator of this, you can set it up in a number of ways. You can have 1 or 2 people present each Zoom meeting, and then the others just support them. It's just support. And then the next meeting, other people can do the same. You can pick 2 more people to present. And let's say there's only 4 people in your group. Then it keeps rotating, and people have to say, how did it go? And so your next presentation is, well, I didn't call those galleries. I'm still nervous about doing it, but I did update my website or something else that was helpful. Okay, you've made progress, and the progress is clear and it's evidenced because you're expressing it to the group. This is a way you can get support, and it builds bravery, and it gets you further out into the world. One place I've seen it a lot, because of course I do a form of this. I teach classes online for artists. And one of the first classes I teach, that I still teach, was about getting patrons and sponsors for your art. Now, patrons and sponsors, which I've written about before and done videos on, and books, and I also teach a class on, is one of the most difficult things for artists, because it means you're writing to very wealthy people and you're asking them for money to fulfill your dream. Seems simple, right? At the outset, when I do webinars in this and talks, people say, yes, I'm excited. I want to join the class. That's the initial enthusiasm, right? But then once people get into the class and they're working on letters that I give them templates for, and I'm editing their letters, and they get all ready, their whole dream is articulated, and the right systems are there for the patrons to sponsor them, to give them money, to donate money, and they even have the list of patrons. That's when often they don't move forward. So what I've noticed in the group is you see people saying, yes, I've got my letter. I'm just not sure. I'm ready though. There's I remember one guy said that I feel like there's a lot of sharks out there. Literally, right? Sharks in the water. You're jumping into the water. You're making yourself vulnerable. You're afraid you're going to get eaten alive, right? So, and that's understanding. You're putting yourself out there. It's understandable, right? So what always moves me, almost to tears, is seeing other students come in and members of Praxis Center saying, you can do it. It's not up to you whether they give money or not. Comment after comment after comment of people saying, you can do it. Send it out there. Send it out there. And you know what happens? They send it out there. And when you send that out there, you tend to get support. So in the case of the guy I just mentioned, the support that he got was $17,000. It was kind of extraordinary. But it's not atypical, because the biggest impediment to getting what you want is not asking for it. If you don't ask a gallery to show your work, if you don't ask a patron for funding, if you don't apply to a residency or a grant or another opportunity, you're not going to get it. So, and I know that seems obvious probably in many ways, but what's not obvious is the fact that you're in your own way. There's something that you're not doing that you should do, but for some reason you get in your own way. And that's self-doubt. That's, all the things that all artists have in common and that entrepreneurs usually don't have. They have a portion of it, but it's not nearly as personal as artists. So, again and again, I see in the groups that I foster through my classes, artists saying things like, doubting themselves. I'm not sure I'm even ready to get out there. This one person wanted to buy my work, but, they want to buy it for this amount, and I guess I'll give it to them for that amount, but that's so little, I think, I'm not sure what to do. I should really hold on for more money. Again, that's about self-doubt, right? And sense of worth and value. So what I see is members like crazy commenting underneath it saying, you can do it. Don't doubt yourself. We're all doing the same thing. Again, it takes a village. So either build your own village, make a small Zoom group of 3 or 4 artists, meet once a month and tell them what your goals are. And then you have actually a group that's holding you accountable, because you're supposed to show up in that group once a month on the first Saturday or whatever it is. That's one way to get over this kind of existential almost angst that artists have of kind of, I don't want to do that again. And is this good enough? And why am I being rejected? It's painful, but it's not, it doesn't mean that is the case, that your work isn't good enough. We know this is the fact, because historically, many artists have been afraid to go out and get shows or put their work out there. And then, later in their life or even after their death, we find their work is extraordinary and it reaches all kinds of heights. So who's to say you're not that person? Who's to say your work isn't, much more extraordinary than you think, and that you just haven't found your audience yet? So in this brief talk that I'll conclude now, the way to get over the biggest problem in the art world, which is yourself, which is, you know, laying traps for yourself, being somehow self-sabotaging, is to find support out there somewhere. And the support can be with just one other artist that you work with every week, and you say, well, I'm going to achieve these goals, and you check in with each other. I like support groups because there's more variety. So you could, you know, join a support group. If you're interested in joining some of my support groups, I can tell you more about that. But today, I just want to say to believe in what you're doing, because that was your initial instinct when you made art. You believed in it. And as you made it, you thought, wow, this is exciting. And then you wanted to share it with the world. And that's when the problem comes in, and self-doubt and fear. Even when there's successes, there's setbacks when someone says something critical about your work online, or you get some other slight or humiliation. There's setbacks. So you need to find a way to move forward all the time. What I'm suggesting is you build that support system for yourself, or find an existing support system that can help you. Because the biggest hurdle that you'll ever have to jump is the one that you put in place for yourself. So I wish you well. As an artist, what you're doing is, again, a gift for the world. It's something enormously special that's unique, also truly unique. And it's on you to get that out into the world. But since it's so difficult to surmount fears and not put hurdles in our own way, find a way around them. Find a hack. Find a workaround. And the workaround I'm talking about today is finding a support group, creating your own, or joining another one. I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much for watching.